All right, welcome, guys. Usually I'm not coming to you this late at night, but obviously with this breaking news, we're going to talk about this. You've got this breaking news. This is not good news for the White House. This is obviously going to be a major issue for days to come. White House was apparently warned, and I'll give you the background on this so you kind of know the details of this. The White House was warned that Michael Flynn could be blackmailed by Russia because of the conversations that he did, in fact, have with the Russian ambassador before he was actually in the White House, before Donald Trump was sworn in. The second issue here that was so troubling about this is the fact that Michael Flynn flat out lied to the vice president about that communication that he had with the Russian ambassador. The Justice Department warned the Trump administration, we've been told last month, that Michael Flynn misled administration officials regarding his communications, and I'm reading this now, quoting, with the Russian ambassador to the United States, and was potentially, quote, vulnerable to blackmail by the Russians. The White House officials also confirmed that the Justice Department did come in and actually warned them. The concern was basically raised after Flynn claimed that he did not, quote, discuss with the Russian ambassador the sanctions being imposed by the former President Barack Obama's administration in retaliation for Russia's interference in the election. Flynn, when this happened, again, was not yet in the government. Now, this message was delivered by then acting Attorney General Sally Yates. Other top intelligence officials were being told now, including James Clapper and John Brennan, were in agreement that the White House should be alerted about the concerns that Flynn had in fact lied and he was open to blackmail. Now, is the reality that this could have been used for blackmail a real reason to alert the White House? Absolutely. Do I think that this was appropriate for him to resign? Yes. Flynn had the support of the president. This was becoming too big of a scandal. Flynn, as many of you know, is a retired lieutenant general who was the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency under Obama until he was forced out. He was a big ally of Donald Trump on the campaign trail. He was introducing Donald Trump on the campaign trail at many of the stops. A lot of people in the military community liked this, Flynn, especially in this role, in this position. But he put himself in a bad situation, first off, by having these communications. He also lied to the Vice President of the United States of America, which made it even worse. And then the White House was told that he lied to them about this issue. Obviously, the Vice President was put in an awkward situation here, and the President of the United States of America was put in an awkward situation. And now the bigger issue comes, who knew what when? This is much bigger than Flynn. Flynn, let me make this clear. Flynn resigning is not going to be the end of the story. So do not expect this story to go away. I'm going to be up on TV in just a little bit talking more about this, but I wanted to talk directly with you guys first on Facebook about this. The National Security Advisor resigning is not the end of the story. This is going to become I think it's pretty clear, a quote, scandal. We're only 3 weeks into the Trump administration. This is not good for the White House. Democrats are going to seize on this. They're going to open an investigation in the House. They're going to open an investigation in Congress. They're going to come out hammering the White House for this. They're going to also hammer who knew what when. Did the president know? Did he keep him around? What happened with this leak? Why didn't they get involved with this? This is going to be a story that is far beyond Flynn resigning. Many of you, if you watched or listened to the show earlier today, I said that I thought that if Michael Flynn lied, which it seems like it very clear the evidence seemed that he did lie to the vice president, that he should resign. I do think there could be some good that comes out of this, and let me explain what I mean. First off, I think having people at the White House on notice. This White House has in many ways been just filled with leaks. I said this the other day. The White House right now is kind of like the Hunger Games. You have a lot of people that I think were very loyal to Donald Trump that received jobs that they are not capable possibly of doing, some of them. And I'm talking about lower level people. I'm not talking about his top people that you're hearing about on TV. But unfortunately, there have been a significant number of leaks. And when you get to Washington and you're in administration, and I've been around presidential administration, you see people that use their position of power to gain friends and to be a know-it-all and to seem important to the media by leaking information. somebody needed to be fired over this. Flynn resigned before he was fired is basically how you can look at this. But this is putting all other White House staffers on notice. You lie to the president, you leak information, and we will get rid of you. This puts Donald Trump in an awkward situation. Donald Trump is in a situation now where he basically is going to have to answer a lot more questions about the conversations with Russia. This plays into the narrative that the Democrats wanted out there about Russia and about there being this corruption with Russia, or this, this back friendship with Russia that is not something that we like or that we want, this too cozy with Putin. This all is going to help fill that stigma that Democrats have been pushing so hard. That's where he's put in a very, very, very weird place. The second thing about this is it's, Keith Kellogg, by the way, just so you know, will be the interim national security advisor, is what we've been told after the resignation of Michael Flynn tonight. I would expect you're probably going to have somebody like another military type that will come in, probably somebody who you've heard the name of before. I don't think that this will be something that the White House is going to want to leave open for very long. They're going to want to move on from this as quickly as they can. You'll probably see an announcement, I would think, within the week about who's going to take this position. That's something that I think is important to happen. But if there's anything that I think can come out of this that's good, is that it's going to be very clear now that if you are a leaker or you are lying to this in this administration and you are doing things like this, you will be fired. Flynn was a very, very tight inner circle guy of the Trump administration. He was on the tour with him when he was running for president. He was introducing him city after city on the campaign trail. He was a trusted advisor to the President of the United States of America. And to get rid of him 3 weeks into your administration because he lied to your vice president sends a very clear and direct message to everybody else around the White House, to everyone else around him, that he will not put up with this kind of crap. And there does need to be a kind of a law and order, a reset for the White House staff right now. There have been way too many leaks coming out. There have been way too many people that have been sending information through back channels or in these ways that leakers do it in Washington. It's been undermining the White House. I hope this sends a clear message that Donald Trump is not afraid to fire you or Flynn or anyone else. Now, do I think, sources within the administration describe what they refer to as a, quote, difficult situation for Flynn, with one saying, quote, the knives were out. What else are you going to do? The fact that he was in a position where Russia could have blackmailed him was just stupid. That's the only other way I can describe this, is it was just flat out stupid. You're going to see this hurt the administration. This is going to hurt them for at least another week and a half, and it's going to help fit the narrative and the stereotype, exactly the narrative and the stereotype the Democrats wanted on this issue. So what I'll say is this. This sucks for the White House. I think General Flynn is a smart individual that made a very stupid decision. You don't lie to the President of the United States of America. When you have to resign as a national security advisor, remember, this is going to be how Michael Flynn is going to be remembered. He's going to be remembered as a disgraced individual who was the first person to resign the Trump administration over the first real scandal in the Trump administration. It was a dumb decision for what he did. It was dumb that he thought he could somehow get away with this, especially after we learned that the Justice Department informed the White House that it believed he could be subject to blackmail last month. Again, retired Army General Keith Kellogg, a top policy advisor for Trump's presidential campaign, has been appointed the acting national security advisor now immediately. The White House said in a statement announcing Flynn's replacement. Kellogg is 72. He's a former commander of the 82nd Airborne Division. He was chief operating officer for the Western Coalition in Baghdad, Iraq, after the U.S.-led invasion in 2003. Senior administration officials also said that Kellogg was under consideration for the permanent job, along with former retired Navy Vice Admiral Robert Howard, former deputy commander of the U.S. Joint Forces Command, and former CIA Director David Petraeus. David Petraeus is a guy, and this is, if you ask me tonight, who do I think is actually going to take over? I think David Petraeus is probably the guy because he's liked on Capitol Hill. He's an individual that is liked by both sides of the aisle. I think, by the way, someone just wrote at the bottom on Facebook here, Ben, are you drinking tonight? No, I'm not drinking tonight. I'm tired. It's late. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and I got to do TV for another 2.5 hours after I hang up with you guys. So, no, I'm not drinking. I take that back. I am. Water. There you go. Back to what I was saying. I think you're probably going to see CIA Director David Petraeus is probably going to take this job, would be my guess. Now, they may want to keep Keith Kellogg since they already named him just to have some stability. I think most people in Congress would feel more comfortable with the former CIA Director David Petraeus. And I also think you're going to need somebody to come in here that understands exactly what not to do when it comes to these stupid screw-ups, just like you saw from Michael Flynn. I think David Petraeus, being the former CIA director, would make a lot of sense on this issue. I think he would be very smart to consider David Petraeus for this top job. And if I talk to Donald Trump, that's exactly who I'm going to tell him I think he should pick. Now, Flynn's status, by the way, is one that, again, this all went back, and the reason why he was forced to resign tonight was after it was disclosed that he had, quote, misled the Vice President Mike Pence and other senior officials about his communications with the Russian ambassador to the United Nations before Donald Trump was sworn in, before Michael Flynn was in this position. Quote, unfortunately, because of the fast pace of events, I inadvertently briefed the Vice President-elect and others with, quote, incomplete information regarding my phone calls with the Russian ambassador. I have sincerely apologized to the President and Vice President, and they have accepted my apology, Flynn said in this resignation letter. The senior U.S. official confirmed part of a report in the Washington Post, which quoted current and former U.S. officials Monday as saying Sally Yates, then the acting attorney general, delivered the message that Flynn was considered vulnerable to the White House counsel, Donald McGraham. The Post reported that Yates was privy to the FBI monitoring showing that Flynn discussed sanctions on Russia with the ambassador, even though Flynn told the administration officials that he hadn't done that. Now, Pence repeated the misinformation in national television appearances. Now, Trump fired Yates as acting attorney general late last month, after she directed the Department of Justice lawyers not to defend his executive order on immigration. Many people believe the leak probably came from her to get this out here, in many ways to get even with the Trump administration. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. You get fired by Donald Trump, you know that there's blackmail material on Flynn. You leaked that to the press. Welcome to the dirty game that is Washington politics. If I had to guess, I would guess that either she or someone close to her probably leaked this information to the press. Friendlies at the press, they ran with the story. It ended up being true, and now you have Flynn, who has had to resign. Again, National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has resigned. That is where we are tonight. And if I had to guess, my guess is moving forward that there's a very good chance, again. All right, I don't know if you guys are still there. Good. Something happened here, so we'll continue back with what I was saying a moment ago. Long story short, what I was saying a second ago is again, these senior intelligence officials confirmed that Flynn discussed these first off the sanctions, which the Obama administration imposed to punish Russia for its campaign to interfere in the presidential elections. The intelligence officials said there had been no, quote, finding inside the government that Flynn, quote, did anything illegal, but he did lie to the vice president and did lead top officials at the White House. All day today, the only clear thing about Flynn's status was that it was, quote, unclear. White House counselor Kellyanne Conway told NBC News that Flynn still had the full confidence of the president, appearing to signal that Flynn's job is safe. Then moments later, the White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, said the president was, quote, evaluating the situation and was talking with Pence about his discussions with Flynn. Then Spicer confirmed reports that Flynn had called Pence, quote, to apologize. Now, Trump pointedly declined to answer reporters' questions about Flynn this afternoon, only saying, we just put out a statement. Now, let me just say this. There was another question that was asked today that was, again, there was one question that was asked today about, well, hold on a second. What about White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus? Donald Trump said, quote, Reince is doing a great job, great, not a good job, a great job. So it seemed very clear that the White House is trying to get rid of any of these speculation, any of these rumors out there that there's more heads that are about to roll. That looks at this point right now that at least the National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, has resigned. You're probably going to see Petraeus get this job long term. And the White House, look, the media's jumping all over this tonight. And they're going to say that Reince Priebus may be gone as White House Chief of Staff. They're going to say that there's a good chance that Sean Spicer, the press secretary, may be gone soon, and also that Kellyanne Conway. I'm a realist. I'm honest. Things are not going well right now for Donald Trump in the White House. This has been a tough 3 weeks. Some of it is self-inflicted, learning how to do things the right way. Part of it's because there are people around the president that are trying to make themselves important in Washington. And as I said earlier when we were talking about this, there's one thing that is always, and I've worked in the White House, I understand the White House mentality. There are many people that when they get a job in the White House, they find this newfound power and they want to show it off by leaking information to the press. There have been far too many leaks coming out of this White House. There's also people in the White House that are leaking things because they're not getting their way. And many people, they found out when they don't get their way, they leak out information about the other person, whoever it was that won, or the other idea that won, and therefore there gets a lot of play in the media with that. And so that's kind of their way of sticking it to whoever, quote, didn't listen to them. So again, what I'll say is this. I think it's pretty clear that this administration is got to get things back focused the way it needs to be. This administration has got to do a better job of getting things focused moving forward. I'll leave it at that with you tonight. Again, I will end by reading you this letter. I just got this copy of the National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's letter. I'm going to read it to you and exactly what he had to say as he was resigning. It said, quote, "In the course of my duties as the incoming National Security Advisor, I held numerous phone calls with foreign counterparts, ministers, and ambassadors. These calls were to facilitate a smooth transition and begin to build the necessary relationships between the president, his advisor, and foreign leaders. Such calls are standard practice in any transition of this magnitude. Unfortunately, because of the fast pace of events, I inadvertently briefed the vice president-elect and others with incomplete information regarding my phone calls with the Russian ambassador. I have sincerely apologized to the president and the vice president, and they have accepted my apology." That's where I do not believe Michael Flynn. I think he's lying. I think he knew he had these conversations about sanctions. You would remember having conversations with Russia about sanctions when it was the biggest news story for days on end, with their people getting kicked out of this country and sanctions being imposed on them by Barack Obama. There's no way that you did this inadvertently or by accident. This was a deliberate decision by Michael Flynn to lie to the vice president, and it cost him his job, as it should have. Now, it says, throughout my over 33 years of honorable military service, in my tenure as a National Security Advisor, I have always performed my duties within the utmost of integrity and honesty to those I have served, to include the President of the United States of America. Quote, "I am tendering my resignation, honored to have served our nation and the American people in such a distinguished way. I am also extremely honored to have served President Trump, who in just 3 weeks has reoriented American foreign policy in fundamental ways to restore America's leadership position in the world." Michael Flynn went on to say, again in this letter I'm reading for the first time, quote, as I step away once again from serving my nation in this current capacity, I wish to thank President Trump for his personal loyalty, the friendship of those who I worked with throughout this hard-fought campaign, the challenging period of transition, and during the early days of his presidency. I know with the strong leadership of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Mike Pence and the superb team they are assembling, this team will go down in history as one of the greatest presidencies in U.S. history. And I firmly believe that the American people will be well served as they all work together to help make America great again. Signed, Michael Flynn, retired assistant to the President, National Security Advisor. That is his letter that he put out tonight. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigns. We've also put that letter up on Facebook if you want to go back and read it there. But let me again recap. Michael Flynn has resigned. He resigned as he should have. He lied to the vice president. He put himself in a bad situation with the Russians. This was a bad decision by him to do this. This was a dumb decision by him to do this. It should not have happened this way. He should not have had these conversations in this way. But most importantly, if he did have that conversation, he should have not lied to the President of the United States of America. I'll see you guys on TV in a few. I'm going to be on multiple times tonight on CNN talking about this issue, so we'll have much more about this also tomorrow on the show, so make sure you join me on the show tomorrow. But again, breaking news, Michael Flynn has resigned as a national security advisor over lying to Vice President Pence. I think he should have resigned. It's important that he resigned. I don't have a problem with it. It's unfortunate, and look, this story is going to linger for at least 10 days, in my opinion. They're going to need to put somebody in there quickly like Petraeus. I think he deserves to get the job. He's liked well by Democrats on Capitol Hill. That's important right now after you have what just happened with Flynn. I think Flynn resignation is a wake-up call to this White House and to Donald Trump. Get your house in order, get the leaks under control, and fire people that can't do their job well, because otherwise it's going to do more harm to the Republican Party, to conservatives, and those that voted for him on the agenda that he promised to deliver. This is about, you got to get rid of people that cannot help you accomplish your goals. And I hope that this is going to send a message to everyone that's supposed to be serving the president to stop serving their own interests, stop serving their own either personal interests to be famous or to be a big deal or to impress somebody, and actually do your job and stop those leaks. I'll see you on TV at CNN in just a little bit. Again, National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has resigned. Thank you for watching this. Make sure you like our page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you hit that like button on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you guys later.